Okay, guys, so I'm finishing. This one should be less than 5 minutes. I hope so. Me and my big mouth. But now, if you realize that this overgrown baby is cheating on you, you have to sit down, guys. It's difficult to stay with a cheater. It's difficult because you don't trust that person anymore. So Jesus allows divorce in such cases, and also a person who abuses you. You understand, guys? Cheating on its own is abuse, because that person is actually saying you won't do anything to me, so I can cheat on you. So what? You understand? As I've said, guys, human beings are overgrown babies. Empty-minded is just the size of the body that is actually growing. So when you decide to marry, you need to know that you are marrying a nonsense, which is also an overgrown nonsense. You understand? So you need to understand that. You will realize when you get married, damn, I'm married to a nonsense and an overgrown one. You understand? And a nonsense that is able to beat you if they are stronger than you. So it becomes difficult to live with such a person. So Jesus allows divorce in such cases because he doesn't want you to live in quarreling and all. He wants you to have peace, but should you decide to do so, you can't remarry again. Why? You were supposed to to sleep with one person, and after Jesus has forgiven you, if you've been sleeping with many people, he's cleansed you, and now you are okay. So now, since you're divorcing, you're not going to sleep with anyone else. You're going to remain single. So if your flesh is burning, stay with that overgrown baby. That's nonsensical overgrown baby. And also sometimes people decide to stay because of their babies. They realize, damn, I've got a baby. I've got children who still love their father, because your children, guys, will love you as much as they love the other parent. You understand? So they are needed. So sometimes you decide to stay. You're going to stay, guys, and nothing you can do. It was a decision. That's why we tell you all these things. We make you understand that the nature of human beings. We are not offending people. We want you to understand the nature of human beings, so that should you decide to marry, you know what you are getting yourself into. As much as it's a nice idea to think about it, it's not nice when you really think about staying with an overgrown baby, a nonsensical overgrown baby. That one is even worse. You understand? So sometimes you find that they are scared of parting with guys, you take half of your money when you divorce, half of your possessions, half of your money, because the other goes to the spouse. So those are difficult things that people are just not interested in doing. You understand? So in many cases, you find them killing. They rather become widows, because they know that if you become a widow, you will remarry. You are allowed to remarry if you become a widow. But guess what? If you kill and become a widow, in the eyes of people, maybe they did not realize that you were killing. Angels, guys, are recording everything under the sun. So you can fool me. You can fool that person, but you can't fool Jesus. You decided to kill the spouse because you didn't want to part with half of your things, half of your possessions, and you wanted to remarry. You're fooling a wrong dude. Don't fool Jesus. Wrong person to fool. Wrong person to fool. You understand? By killing, you are actually committing crime, and you now know the truth. So you are losing Jesus. You will gain a partner, a new one. You will gain people who will think, oh, shame. People who will feel sorry for you. You just won't gain Jesus. It's just the way it is. So there are things like that you need to understand and learn. You understand? Also, Paul is saying that if you are staying with a person who is not married, let's say you got married after some time. You got married and then later you heard about salvation, then you get saved. Then the person you are living with is not saved. You are allowed to live with the person. It is okay. Because maybe by you living with them, they will see that your conduct has changed and you are submissive and all, and they will think that Jesus is a great guy. Maybe they will get saved. You understand? Who knows? You might save your husband, or knows. This is why Paul is saying in the 15th part, if the unbeliever lives, let it be so. The brother or sister is not bound in such circumstances. God has called us to live in peace. How do you know, wife, whether you will save your husband? Or how do you know, husband, whether you will save your wife? But in the previous verse, it says, to the rest I say this, I, not the Lord. This is coming from Paul, not from our Lord. If any brother has a wife who is not a believer and she is willing to live with him, he must not divorce her. And if a woman has a husband who is not a believer and he is willing to live with her, she must not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband has been sanctified through his wife, and the unbelieving wife has been sanctified through her unbelieving husband. Otherwise, your children will be unclean. But as it is, they are holy. You understand? So if you realize that after you gotten married and then you come across salvation and you get saved, but your spouse is not saved, it's your decision what you do. If you like, you can leave. If you can leave, because guys, it's difficult to live with a person who doesn't share your beliefs. Believe me when I tell you, it's difficult, because they also want to add their own opinions. But with believers, people who share their same belief, they will be controlled by one principle. You understand? But if you live with someone who doesn't share your belief, it's like you are quarreling with one another, because we all want to air our own opinions and want to have our opinions as a final say. You understand? And you find that there's no longer peace. In many households, guys, there's no peace. People become roommates. You understand? So you can leave a person, you can divorce the person, but you are going to have to remain single after that. You need to know, guys, these things. So as much as it's difficult maybe to be single, if you are like Paul and you have so much knowledge and you are able to control your flesh, Jesus would also pay attention. Jesus pays attention so much to a person who actually decides to renounce marriage for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. You find that in the Gospel of Matthew 19. If you decide to remain single for the sake of the kingdom of heaven, it is okay. Jesus is the one who actually takes over and pays attention to you. You understand? And really, Jesus, guys, can really love. Believe me when I tell you. He will make sure that you find out his will and you do his will, so you'll be also entertained by his will. You understand? And also by him. You understand? So he will also make sure that you get so much knowledge, just like Paul, and be able to control your flesh. You understand? Because his disciples, there were some who were married like Peter. Yes, we find Peter saying, Lord, I'm willing to die with you, even though he was married. He was willing to leave his wife behind. Peter, guys, loved Jesus so much. You understand? So it's things like that. So it's good to marry if you want to marry. If you find out that, well, your flesh is burning so much, get married. There's no problem with that, guys. We have this dead flesh. You understand? So it's okay to marry in such cases. Sometimes you sit and you're like, is it okay to marry when you are still young? Guys, difficult question to answer, because when you're young, yes, your flesh is going to be giving you problems, but you're still empty-minded, and in many cases, people who marry at that, at a very young age, they don't last. But it's difficult, because I can't tell you to stay and remain with that burning flesh, because sex outside marriage is just not allowed in the kingdom of heaven. It is allowed in churches, but it's not allowed in the kingdom of heaven. You understand? Yes, I'll say, well, in that case you can get married, but divorcing is a problem, because when you divorce, you have to stay single forever. So guys, it's difficult to be a Christian. To be a Christian, nobody said it was going to be easy, especially if you want to enter the kingdom of heaven and you want to stay true to Jesus. You understand? It's difficult. So it's one of those things you have to think about. Sometimes people want to save money and have that perfect wedding and all, and during the time they're busy having sex. Believe me, you will have that perfect wedding. You will have that perfect partner. You're just going to lose Jesus, because you are into pleasing people instead of going to court and put a ring on it. I love when Beyonce says it. Just put a ring on it. Just put a ring on it. You understand? You go to court, you put a ring on it. You buy that cheap ring, put a ring on it. You go to court, you sign. That's marriage. Instead of waiting for 3 years, you're busy having sex, you're losing Jesus. You're gaining that perfect wedding, you're gaining that perfect partner, you're losing Jesus. Are people worth it? I don't think so. I've never met a person who's worth losing Jesus. Never in my life. I don't think they exist anyway. So just sit down and think. Those are the things that you have to sit down, guys, and think about. So that's why I usually tell the truth, because, guys, when you tell people the truth, they're able to sit down and calculate the cost, because it's difficult to obey Jesus. I made a podcast once about calculating the cost, because it's difficult to obey Jesus. So I usually tell the truth, because it's better to to tell people the truth, and they hate you, but they know what they're getting themselves into. So when you decide to get married, you must know that you are getting married to an overgrown, nonsensical person. And when you realize that this nonsense I can't stay with, this overgrown nonsense I can't stay with, you must know that you will have to live you single forever. You understand? And if your flesh is burning and your mind is empty, it's going to be difficult. You understand? So sometimes it's easier to stay single for some time and maybe get married later around the age of 40s. Believe me when I tell you. Many times you'll find people saying, oh, but it's difficult to find people after 40. Guess what? Those who married early, they don't want to be together anymore. So it's just one difficult thing that you just sit and you're like, damn, life is difficult. But it's one of those decisions, guys. So I rather tell people the truth and they make their own decisions. So by now, you know the truth. It's difficult to be a Christian, particularly when you are obeying when you are deciding to obey Jesus. It's going to be difficult, but it's worth it because you're going to keep Jesus. Guys, that guy is worth it. Yes, it's too costly. Guys, Jesus is very expensive. That's one thing I've realized. Too expensive. You can't love money if you want to keep him. You can't love the things of the world if you want to keep him. You can't have sex outside marriage if you want to keep him. You understand? So it's like you become a loser. You lose a lot when you are keeping Jesus because he is expensive. It's easy to keep me because I'm cheap. It's easy, guys, to keep people because they are cheap. But Jesus is expensive and he knows that he's worth it. So if you decide to keep him, you must know that you become a loser, So it's one of those things you need to understand. That's why I just decide to keep it real. Just tell it like it is. And you decide, I don't like what pastors are doing, preaching what will please you and losing Jesus. They're making decisions for you. You are the one who must make a decision for yourself, whether you leave this place, you go to heaven or not pastors. You understand? So guys, I'm done now. I hope by now you understand all of these things. I wanted you to get these answers because people want answers, and when I make a series, it's easier to just deal with one topic in one box, So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you.